Persona 6 is just around the corner, and it would not shock me if we get a reveal in this year's Tokyo Game Show. But I'm gonna be honest. My number one wish for Persona 6 is to have an option to choose a protagonist. One to romance the waifus, and the other for the husbandos. And sure enough, this wish has been the collective desire of many fans, as there have been a lot of people wanting to romance Akechi, disgruntled fans who are still hoping for P3R's Femc, and the people who are just happy every time Maya has an official artwork.
Yes! Hell yeah!
There is no downside in having the option to choose whether or not to play as a male or female protagonist. And quite frankly, it will make the Persona game feel more immersive for a lot of players, because sometimes, even the manliest of men want to feel like a cute anime girl. So why hasn't P Studio or Atlus pulled the trigger on this? Well, it turns out there are a lot of reasons. Adding a Femc option can make or break Persona 6, and here's why. But before that though, if you love the idea of having two options per protagonist in a Persona game, then like this video and join Otaku Defied for more Persona content. Are you a boy or are you a girl? Male MC and female MC. This is not a new concept in any game or even in a JRPG. A lot of games have tested this mechanic, and everyone loves the liberty of playing either of the two orientations. Games like the Fire Emblem series, Pokemon, Scarlet Nexus, and even gacha games like Star Rail. Why do these games offer the players to choose? Well, it's because these protags are the player's self-insert. You as a player see yourself as a man, then you will create a masculine avatar and reflect your personality and insight with that protagonist. And most of these protagonists are, well, wooden planks, so that it can virtually represent anyone in the world. But as time went on, the blank personality is seen by a lot of gamers as boring characters. Take a look at various discussions regarding protagonists in MiHoYo games. A lot of people favor the Trailblazers of Star Rail compared to the Troublers of Genshin Impact. And that's because both Kaelus and Stell have a clear-cut personality of being a bunch of trash pandas. While they may have a unique personality, but their actions as a dumpster diving gremlins are reflected on how players would scoop out entire areas to find loots. And it really does make them the better type of protagonist. And this is the reason why a lot of JRPGs are leaning towards building their games with a protagonist that actually has some personality. Look at the Tales series and Final Fantasy. These games only have one protagonist in their entries because their personalities are unique and are important in the story. Like how Velvet from Tales of Berseria is driven by vengeance, and we as a player are pulled by her story and character that we actually want to see her succeed on that. In short, they are not supposed to be the player's self-insert, but it doesn't mean you will not be able to relate to these characters. In fact, their strong personalities are what drives players to continue playing the game, as we want to know how their story will end. Now, Persona games are a mix of both. Their protagonists are clearly meant to be self-insert while also not offering any liberties for customizations. They don't exude any loud personalities to the point where the players will be given an impression that they are caricatures and they reflect who we are. But is it really? Persona protagonist works in a more complex way. While yes, they don't actually talk in any of their dialogues, some people would often compare them to dull isekai anime protagonists, but that take is absolutely false.
Am I wrong?
If we look at the three protagonists of the social link era of Persona games, Yuki Makoto, Yu Narukami, and Ren Amamiya, if I call this trio boring self-inserts, then it will be the first time that Persona fans will stand united and burn me on a pike, then fight each other until only one protag remains. The reason for that is because these three are amazing protagonists with colorful personalities, albeit presented in a lesser opacity. The story will not show us that these three are these kinds of stereotypical characters, rather they are sprinkled in their dialogue choices and how they react to certain things. Such as in Persona 3, how Makoto is annoyed when he hears the TV jingle from Tanaka's show. But on the other hand, the other protagonists clearly enjoy the chime. I bet your ears are playing the tunies right now. Then let's look at Yu Narukami. Persona fans have all agreed that he is the Giga Chad for how he is presented in the game. Every character in Persona 4 seems to swoon over the one true king, and whatever the king says, well, you know how it goes.
Man whore! She said you're one big man whore!
And we shouldn't ignore the button mashing, heart stealing, and showstopper that is Joker. Ren Amamiya is full of style and smug and is never going to just follow an order just because a character said so. He isn't a robot unlike certain characters. He is a rebel truly representing the theme of Persona 5. It is clear that Persona protagonists actually fall in the second category of the JRPG protagonists. The Persona series only has one protagonist per each entry because they are a character with clear identities. The reason for this is the direction P Studio and Atlus have for the Persona series, and that is medium mixing. They saw that the story, setting, and characters of the Persona series should not stay exclusively on video games, but across every medium possible. And they are right, giving us fans a way to consume the Persona series in a form of manga, anime, movies, and even stage plays. The reason why Atlus and P Studios haven't pulled the trigger to design their game to have two options per protagonist is that it will deter them from continually making these types of mixed media adaptations. Another thing is with the series spin-offs. The spin-offs are where the personalities of the protagonists are given more texture, such as you becoming a Syscon in the Persona 4 arena. The Persona series have locked themselves into this, and there seems to be no escaping this fate that Persona games will always have one protagonist for each entry. Or is there? If we go back to 2009, and you guys are probably screaming this already, Persona did have two options per protagonist with Persona 3 Portable, allowing players to either choose Makoto or Kotone, everyone's favorite Femc. Sorry, Maya. And that decision is a step in the right direction. Not only did they allow the players to play as a cute depressed girl, but it also added new story bits, social links, and scenarios to show how the world looks in the eyes of a cute and depressed girl. Then what about their mixed media adaptations? Well, it turns out that they can just select whomever they want from the two protags. Since there has been a manga adaptation for Kotone's perspective of Persona 3, then the movie starred Makoto. So at this point, why haven't P Studio and Atlus go back in this direction? Well, it might come down to their own choice. Be it a personal or creative-driven decision, we might never know. P Studio has created this successful series and they have the formula and layout already embedded onto their systems. They are undoubtedly experts in creating a story that is told in a singular protagonist. Whether or not Persona 6 and future entries will now introduce an option to select a male or a female protagonist will also be up to them. And that's because they fully know what the story they are trying to tell. Now, how could we actually have the possibility of having two protagonists in Persona 6? You just have to make them both exist in the game. While Persona 2 didn't have the option to select either Maya or Tatsuya in either of the two versions, it did tell two great stories from their own perspectives. So look at Persona 6 like this. Even if you choose to play as Femc, we should still be able to see the other male protagonist. Similar to how it was done in Genshin Impact, where if you play as Lumin, you still have Iter leading the Fatui. Or in Zenless Zone Zero, where if you play Weiss, you finally have a cute little sister. Persona 3 Portable also did this with Makoto and Kotone being siblings. But why do they have to include both of the protagonists? Well, marketing. Persona games these days are so popular that every form of media wants them. Joker being invited on Smash and even in this mobile game called Identity 5. And seeing as it is, the narrative of games are evolving, and gamers are looking into fresh new ideas. The only challenge is how they're going to develop that because it's going to be tedious. Speaking of developing games, isn't it still weird that Femc was never in Persona 3 Reload? Well, I have a video explaining that. Join Otaku for more Persona content. This is Math, and stay awesome, my dudes.